3, 2, 1. All right, this is the Yay. I'm Reg Clay.
And Norman G.
This is the Yay, where we talk about life in the theater and the theater of life.
Yay!
Yay!
All right, we have a fantastic guest. We have Brian Rivera, an actor. You've been at the ACT. You've done the Intersection for the Arts. You're at the San Francisco Mime Troupe now. You've been to New York. You've done all sorts of things. I believe you're a playwright as well.
Oh,
how are you?
I didn't know about this.
Oh.
I can't wait.
Or maybe I'm wrong.
No, well, yeah, I did a play in college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I see here you work with Conrad Panganaban, Garden of Dreams. So I didn't know if that was a co-writing thing or just you worked on his play.
Oh, I performed in this play, but I want to be a writer, especially these days. But yeah, he's a close friend of mine. So
Right.
the writer of our group.
Right on. Yeah. Well, I mean, the Philippine. I was talking earlier today with Aureen Almario. I'm working on. I wrote a little piece called "The Informer," and it's about a Philippine family worrying about ICE and the deportation. So I'm trying to see if Bendel-Stiff will sponsor that. So
Yay.
We'll see what happens with that.
Okay.
But in any case, how's everybody doing this post Juneteenth?
Lordy.
Okay.
Well, you know what I was doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Last night we did a reading of Gem of the Ocean.
Oh.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Well, we were up against the I think Lorraine Hansberry was officially the sponsor, but it was everybody. Playground, they said, I don't know how many companies were participating in their Juneteenth celebration. So we were up against some pretty heavy hitters.
Mm-hmm.
I think we did an excellent job. I mean, I think the production, Susan Dunn, I'm not sure what the name of her group is, but she did
the East Bay Readers.
East Bay Readers, yeah.
East Bay Readers Theater.
Yeah, they did an excellent job. I mean, just the production value. Usually I sort of poo-poo, a lot of folks who try to do these readings and they try to make it into a theatrical event because there's not only so much you can do on Zoom, but we did a very good job. I think that the script itself, the language itself, lends to the beauty of it, and so it's almost like radio. It's almost like theater radio, but of course we had the backdrops, and I think all of us did an amazing job. We had Lamont.
Yeah, well, Mara says that you were one of her favorites.
Oh, how nice. Of course, I was the bad guy. But no, Lamont was amazing. The woman over on the East Coast, she did fantastic. Kathleen Ridgway. Kimberly, thank you. Kimberly Ridgway. Terrence Smith.
Yeah, we couldn't have gotten through it without her.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, Kimberly was fantastic. We got to get her on the A. And Terrence Smith, who
was... You would love that.
Yeah, Terrence was a Shelley Award winner. And he did a fantastic job stepping in at the last minute. So it was nice. I mean, but there were a lot of stuff going on Juneteenth. I mean, there were protests going on. There were theatrical events. Zoom.
There was a protest downtown Oakland. Angela Davis and Boots Riley were main speakers. They shut down the ports. The unions shut down dozens of ports on the West Coast. Just said they were not working. They did an 8-hour strike. Said they were not doing any work today. And the protest started at the port and marched all the way downtown. If I'd known, I would have gone. That's incredible.
Yeah, I spoke to Javier Reyes, and he had, I believe he went. But, yeah, there were a lot of things. Here's a question I'll ask for you, Brian. I mean, are you surprised? Because we've had shootings and we've had events that deal with race relations, but nothing on a worldwide event. And it feels like this is a little different than everything else. I mean, does that surprise you?
In a way, yeah. Because I mean, like, it seems like globally, every nation's got their own problems. But the fact that you see people protesting in Korea and Japan now, everywhere, it's inspiring.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's pretty cool. And I was listening just a few minutes ago to Public Enemy has put out a new album.
Really?
Song. Oh, yeah. Quite.
Defund the cops.
Well, it's very anti-Trump and it's very profane, but it's good to see Public Enemy back in action.
Is this with Flavor Flav or without?
With Flavor Flav. I thought
Oh.
I thought that he and Chuck
Whoa!
D were
Okay.
on the outs, but apparently they made up, and I'm sure there's some money involved in it too. So,
Oh, yeah.
but excuse me.
Nice to know anybody's getting paid these days.
Yeah.
Huh.
Brian, you had a wonderful post about I believe it was a FedEx driver who I guess was spat on or
Yeah, and was just taunted and called racial epithets. Sad, and it's
yeah.
it's sad and then angering, but
Right.
I mean, what can you say? That it's good people are testifying, and with our technology able to like spread out the news and
Right.
make people know,
Yeah.
even though it's been going on forever. But
Yeah.
it's sad.
So, Brian posts a lot of really good stuff.
I share a lot. Yeah.
A lot that's going on. Yeah.
No, I totally appreciate that. Here's now you're a Philippine American artist, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So have you, I mean, because when we talk about race relations, we usually talk about black-white relations, and we usually forget about some of the others, except for like, the Latino Americans and the zero tolerance. But have you had to deal with any of, I don't know, racism or any sort of prejudice growing up? I guess you have.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Where do I begin? I mean, nothing supremely horrible, but just little things that caught me off guard, growing up, because that's the thing. It took me a long time to realize that we're in a blue state, that the inland is, heavily, not just that. It's just Sacramento County is so huge, and where I went to school growing up. Well, this is okay. I don't need to backtrack. I went to from K through 8th. I went through an elementary school and junior high that was in so-called hood in Meadowview,
Uh-huh.
but it was a private school. But we were very mixed and equally represented, and so people were different, but it wasn't a problem. But then I went to high school in a mainly white neighborhood. And that's where I got to see a lot of I got a lot of whatever macro aggressions, I guess, a lot of bullying, and a couple of times some like neo-Nazis.
Yeah.
I remember one time when in our senior year we're allowed to leave campus, and so I'd hop in the car with my friends and we'd go to like Taco Bell down the street. But
Right.
But I remember one time we went there and we're just picking up our tacos and we're heading back to our car, and then there was this angry guy with his wife and kid, and he just started shouting like white power at us, and we were like, and we're the mostly white nerds, but
Right.
and being a Hawaiian, and thankfully the driver of the car, a guy named Hennessy, he was, I forget, shoot, he was driving a Volkswagen, so like he said, yeah, Volkswagen, yeah, and he brushed him off, and then we went back to school, but little things like that, growing up with people doing the whole ching chong chang thing at you at the movie theater.
For goodness sake, yeah.
Yeah, but nothing like overt.
Well, the Sacramento police are, as this lens is being focused on the cops, I imagine they're not faring too well. They've got some dirty history.
Yeah.
Black men keep just getting killed, and they're like, ooh, oh well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not. How do I say this right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you all. I have friends and family who are police, but I'm not knocking them. But I think just the system of law enforcement is
Right.
broken, and a lot of innocent people paying the price. And
it's funny. I was talking to a colleague of mine. I work for the district attorney's office, and he's a investigator, former cop, and we were talking about how the police were portrayed in the 70s. You had shows like Beretta, you had shows like Chico and the Man, and I'm trying to think, Columbo, and the Rockford Files, and Barney Miller. And the portrayal of the cop was sort of this relaxed, laid back, outgoing individual who used the power of his personality. But then that changed. That changed in the '80s with like I want to say, well, he had mentioned Chips, but I was thinking more about like the A Team and Lethal Weapon, and Dirty Harry, where
Kojak.
Mm.
well, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, this transition from the easygoing cop to we need to militarize ourselves, and this
Oh,
is sort of the
SWAT.
Wild West.
That
Yeah,
was
SWAT.
actually a show, SWAT.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm always curious about how, because a lot of individuals who become cops, they watch these shows, and there was a generation of guys who watched the laid back Barney Miller stuff, and they were like, "Hey, I want to be the good cop, or the cop that solves problems." But then you have other guys who watched, let's say, Dirty Harry or Death Wish. And they are like, hey, there's evil out on the streets, and I have to avenge the evil or whatever. So I do wonder the mentality of some of these cops. So that's what I find interesting.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, we might as well get into an origin story. You had sort of talked about your upbringing. Did you have any siblings?
I have a younger sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? Go ahead.
She's a few years younger than me. She's a lawyer. She's got a kid right now with her husband, so they're here like half of the week.
Oh,
So
nice.
part of our germ pod.
Okay.
Ah.
How did you get involved in theater, Brian? Were you one of those kids who, when you were in elementary school, did you do the theater stuff?
I wish. No. When I went to high school, basically my freshman year, one of my teachers said, "Oh, if you go see this musical, you get extra credit." I'm like, "Oh, okay, I love extra credit." So got my dad to drop me off at the gymnasium one Sunday afternoon. And all I knew was it was a musical about fairy tales. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever.
What was it?
Into the Woods.
Ah!
Oh,
Yeah.
Sondheim.
Yeah. So I didn't know what to. I was just thinking the least I could about this production, or just whatever, a musical about fairy tales. And then as the show was going along, I was just blown away that people my age and a few years older, the seniors, were just bringing something to life in front of me and being these other people and breaking out into song and dance, and it blew my mind. So every year I tried to audition for the productions, but the drama club, which was a class, was at night, and I was in a carpool, so I couldn't do it. So I mean, I didn't even know how to audition. We didn't have the internet really yet. So I never got in until my senior year. I was part of the men's choir, so basically that experience and skill. And I was also involved that fall prior in an annual community Filipino Christmas review. I got into the musical Guys and Dolls for happening my spring of my
nice
senior year.
Who'd you play?
So, I played Calvin the Missionary.
Ah, okay.
That was the young guy of the group marching along in the Salvation Army band. But at night, I was a crap shooter, so that was fun.
Yay.
So it sounds like you sing. Do you sing?
I'm a good ensemble singer. I'm not a soloist, but I want to be. But I don't know, because I grew up thinking that's the first thing I gravitated to when I got into theater was musicals, and like all the parts I loved the most were as with all pop songs are like written for, or male pop songs are written for tenors.
Right.
And I'm a tone, so it took me a while to latch on to like the lower register singing voices and songs. So.
Yeah, that's the drag about a lot of musicals. A lot of your leads, excuse me, are for tenors, unless you're, Lynn Carreyrou and you can get to be Sweeney Todd or something like that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. So what did you go to college for theater?
Oh yeah, eventually. I mean, I didn't declare my major till like maybe a couple years, but I went to Sac City College first, and I went there because not just to save money, but I'd heard that they had a great community theater company on campus there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I heard about this production of Our Town that they had, where they made it rain on stage, and
Wow,
it was awesome. Yeah. So I had to find her and take classes from her, and was a woman named Donna J. Sparks, who was an awesome teacher, as well as another teacher, Kim McCann, both great teachers and directors.
Right.
So I worked with them for several years, and then eventually I transferred to SF State. Followed the path of friends from the same theater who had left a year or so before me. Whoop. Whoop.
Uh-oh.
It's okay.
Earthquake.
Quick. Oh. But yeah. So then I went to SF State and got my degree in drama.
I didn't realize you were an alum. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Right on.
Go Gators.
There are a lot of folks who they get into theater, let's say when they're in high school, because it's just fun. It's a fun thing to do. But then there's some folks who are like, this is my calling. This is the thing. I have something inside of me that I want to express. Was it the same for you? I mean, what can you describe what sort of how theater grabbed you?
Oh, yeah, totally. Partly for me, okay, like, starting superficially for me was just, being out there undeniably noticed on a stage, in front of people. That was a cool draw for me.
Mm-hmm.
But something, I think, the deeper level for me with theater is that, I don't know. I do know. I'm just, part of my life struggle is finding my own voice. And so I think part of that kind of like self-therapy or way of exploration for me was delving into other characters and other people's words and letting those words come out through me, and learning about that human condition of each character I study or perform that kind of, I don't know, helped me find my own voice in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can't remember how many times I've been cast to do something, but although the director may see me in that role, that's not really my role, or that's not the way that I envision myself. And it took a while for me to actually, probably only until I did Errol Philander, but even later with Richard Wright, where I was like, wow, this is a role that really tells a part of my story. And maybe I'm not Richard Wright, but I can identify with this. And unfortunately, I don't know why, but then again, and that's a question I'll ask with you, Norman. I mean, when is the first time you had a role that really spoke out to you?
Let me think about that. I was actually going to go the opposite, because I would say for you, it was interesting to see you in this role. You played Caesar in Gem of the Ocean, and you were kind of like, I'm not sure where to go with this, but taking it over the top. Still allowed your personality to come through, so the character reflected you in some ways, but probably not in the way that anybody else would have done it. And I think that's what I've always found is I'm not sure what the director wants from this. I'm often in that position where I'm just like, I don't know what you think you want from this. I played Titania last fall. Friggin' Titania. I'm like, what the hell do you want me to do playing Titania? In my mind, Titania is one of the sexiest women in all of Shakespeare. What am I doing playing Titania? And yet, I had to figure out how I could root it in me. But, I mean, to think about your question, I don't know. I feel like I'm still more in that zone of it. I'm not so much looking for a role. Oh, no, I do have one. Gosh. This is about 4 years ago. I was on a weird trajectory. I hadn't been doing a lot of full productions, and I got antsy. I started getting out and doing auditioning. So first I got cast in God of Carnage, and it's a 4-character play. You're on stage for almost the whole time. It's intense. It was wonderful. That was exciting, but I didn't see myself as any of the characters, and so I looked at the history of the play to see if that would help me understand how to play this role. And it was, what's his name, James Gandolfino, the guy from The Sopranos?
Yeah, the guy who passed away, yeah.
Yeah, and oh gosh, Roman Polanski made a movie of it called Carnage, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he's huge. He's wonderful. He was just in the Stan and Ollie Laurel and Hardy biopic.
Yeah, he was fantastic in that.
He's amazing.
Wait, John C. Reilly?
Yes.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
That's him.
Now, look at me. You know me. I'm a little man. How the hell am I going to play a role of one of these guys. So I just had to let that go and let it be something else. Now, the role that actually I went, this is me. I auditioned for this play. It was a new play. It was about parents of a couple had died. A young couple had died. And my son and this white woman had died. And I'm going to meet the parents, and they don't know anything about the relationship. All they know is their daughter died in a car with this black guy. That's all they know.
Oh, I remember this. I remember you telling me about this. Yeah.
It was a gorgeous play.
Yeah.
It was the character was well spoken. He carried his emotions in a very, you could tell that there was a depth of feeling and anger and sorrow, but he mostly kept it on this level because he doesn't know these people. He's in front of these white people, and he's got a deal. And the funny thing was, I auditioned, the director got up and said, man, that was incredible. And he was the director-writer. He walks up, shakes my hand, and says, brother, I hope we get to work together someday. And I knew right then I wasn't getting the role. I'm like, God damn. So I walk out, and there's this huge man, think like Black Burl Ives with dreads. I mean, this man just exudes what America thinks of as black. And, and he's got way more gray than me. I wasn't as gray at the time. And I'm like, oh, hell, you going to hire this guy. So they do. They hire the guy, and he goes through the role as if it were Sanford and Son. He's looking for every joke.
Oh,
He's looking for every, and the director is going nuts. Well, fortunately, I was working on a reading with the guy who played the surviving son. And every time we'd finish a rehearsal, he'd say, Norman, man, you should be in this play with me. And he kept telling the director that every time we would rehearse the reading, he would go back to his rehersals and tell the director.
You should
cut him
You should cut him a money. Yeah, you should give that guy a little bit of your money. He helped you out.
They fired the other guy. They brought me in. I barely had 3 weeks.
Dang.
And every night on stage, I loved that role because I felt like this is a black man that is something like me. He's not totally like me, but he's a black man I understand. And not because I'm studying some foreign role, because I'm sorry, every time I played a gangbanger, and I played way too many, I may as well be doing Shakespeare. For as far away from me as it is culturally, like, I grew up in the suburbs. I went to college. Why the hell am I doing this?
Because, yeah, and see, it ties into the identity. It ties into what you were saying, Brian. I mean, you're seeking to find, maybe not a role or a play or whatever, but the story. You want the story that you're doing as an actor to sort of represent you as a person. And there's so many times, and sometimes I blame myself, let's say as an actor, if I do an audition and I only show the director or whoever it is only one part of me, and they only see me as, let's say, stereotypical role or something like that, and I don't like the roles that I'm getting, I've got to change what I'm doing. I've either got to find a company that'll recognize me for who I am, or change up my monologues. If I want more angry roles, I've got to do an angry monologue. Or if I want to do a more classic role, I've got to find dust up the Shakespearean monologue. So I guess it's sort of managing your career. I mean, that's how I see it. I mean, do you see it that way, both Norman and Brian?
Well, I'm curious about this because Brian is in this interesting place in terms of managing career. Where do you go next? And he's lucky because you've got a home with the Mime Troupe, right? So you know that there's a good chance they're going to be calling you and saying, "Hey, what are you up to this summer?"
For sure. No, and that's it's a relief and also so I'm very grateful for that. I feel like I'm a family or associate of two great theater groups that are deep in my heart. The Mime Troupe, and then also Campo Santo with the Intersection.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah, my familia. But yeah, it's great, and knowing that every now and then there's something along the lines that they can fit me in for, or have a place for me in. But we always want to be looking for work, and regular work is the key thing, I guess. And that's impossible right now, but
yeah. Talk to me about your experience in New York. When did you go to New York?
I went there January 2015.
Yay.
Yeah.
I remember he posted at one point the freshman. They don't call it a class, do they? The folks who is their first year, and you posted a thing with
the
that.
Broadway babies.
Broadway. Oh man, I was so
Oh
proud.
yeah. Broadway babies. Yeah, it's cool. It was so nice because there's this whole ceremony they do every night, every opening night for a Broadway show. They draw up they call up all the newbies on stage, and there's this kind of ceremony that's done. That's pretty
Oh,
beautiful. Hmm.
nice.
Yeah. Well, okay. That's also a part with the Oh my God, and I'm blanking on the name of it, but aside from the Broadway babies, you have oh my God, I'm forgetting the name. I feel bad right now, but there's a tradition since the beginning of or near the beginning of Broadway where the most senior chorus dance member is given this robe,
Right. Yes.
and so there's a whole ceremony where it's like a kind of patchwork robe, like Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, but
Hmm.
it's made up of all the previous productions that came before it.
Right.
Supposedly, there's a secret room in the offices of I don't know, Equity or whatnot in New York where they keep all the robes, and it's like a patchwork kind of a quilt of history of the different Broadway shows. But the most senior dancer is elected, and they put them in the robe, and they got to spin around, and they got to touch every like member of the cast and take them
Oh.
through
Uh-huh.
backstage before the show.
Wow.
But yeah, yeah.
The legacy robe. The legacy robe.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, Google.
Ah, nice. Nice. But it's yeah. So I was extremely lucky because I moved to New York with a sure thing, at least for a couple of years in my pocket already. So
Were you cast in a show? I mean, how did you get to New York, or did you just show up there, just boom?
I wanted to just show up there, but I guess I was more reticent having experienced that in LA back in 2011
Hmm.
or 2010. I figured, okay, it's time for me to try my luck, and I didn't know whether to go to LA or New York from San Francisco, and I picked LA, not knowing that the theater scene down there is extremely different.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, I mean it's amazing. There's a lot of phenomenal actors doing theater there, but not really getting paid.
Right.
Um, hmm. But
And not staying in the productions. I mean, you can walk into a show where somebody who just wants to do the role is stepping in because somebody else got picked up for something
right. Well,
in
essentially,
LA.
yeah. The theater company I got drawn to the most, weirdly enough, is a classical theater company in LA
Oh,
called the Antius Company.
okay.
A bunch of my friends from SF State had moved onto there and were part of their academy and their conservatory, and so they told me about it. And here I am, and I moved to LA, and I took a Shakespeare class, and it was amazing, to be sure.
Mhm.
Um, but what's my point?
We were talking
Shit.
about New York
In
and
terms of doing the shows.
Oh yeah. So yeah, in SF, I slowly built up to a level where I was getting more work after I moved back from LA, and so I kind of had everything planned out. And then I was doing a show at ACT, and I was walking around the offices and the rehearsal spaces, and there was postings. Basically, the Telsey and Company is one of the two top casting agencies in New York, and this is the first time they ever had an open call in San Francisco for a
Oh.
show.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it was for The King and I, the 2015 revival. And so, just on a whim, I signed up and did my thing, and I got called back and went to LA, and then I couldn't make it to the New York other callbacks in New York, but
Right.
they cast me, and so
Yeah.
I had I came with a good thing going.
I think
Um,
we were doing some of the Buffaloed readings around that time.
oh, okay.
And so you were doing a lot of that. You really helped develop, and it's so funny. The character we had you read, they ended up Junie. I think the last version she did of it, she ended up combining those two brothers into
Oh, okay.
one character.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
well,
you were. It was a Porfirio.
That sounds right. Yeah,
Yeah,
Porfirio? Yeah.
yeah. He was sort of the military mind
Yeah, the
in that
revolutionary.
in the revolutionary. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I got to see that. Shoot.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
last time it was in Hawaii. So
Oh,
Yeah, all of us had a
Right
little
on.
bit of a touch in
Right on.
Jeannie Baroga's play Buffaloed, and I think it
Mm.
premiered in was it San Jose?
Yeah,
Yeah,
San Jose
San
State.
Jose stage. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How long did you stay in New York, Brian?
I guess I had a place technically there for 3 years, but so our revival ran for like a year and a half. Then we had a few months break, and then I went back there to do the tour.
Right.
And so I did that tour for like 2 years. And then somewhere near the end of that tour, I had to move my roommate got engaged and was moving to LA, and I couldn't find a roommate or a subletter in time, so I
Sure.
just let the apartment go. But I want to head back there, when this is all blown over, and hopefully there's theater again in
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah.
No, I remember I was so proud because you were traveling and you were understudying a couple of roles, including the lead.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, and we'd get these emails. So it looks like I'm going on in San Jose. Like, oh shit.
I know I was so bad with
No, you were great about it. I mean, how are you going to know? You're not going to get that much notice most of the time.
Well, actually, I did have some notice with the San Jose gig, but that was the thing with tour life, or one of the what do you call it, challenges that I learned, was that the days just kind of bleed into each other. And you're doing 8 shows, 6 days a week,
Right.
and your one day off is a travel day. So I lost track of time, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing both the intersection for the arts and also the mime troupe
Yeah.
at the same time. So how does that work out?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. Usually, I guess the intersection or the Camposanto doesn't really do summer shows. I would say.
Right. No, not really. Yeah.
Really, yeah. But so I guess we mainly do stuff like I won't say we, but somehow just worked out where I was doing stuff in the winter or spring or fall. But
Mm-hmm.
and the
Yeah.
mime troupe I did. I've done like I guess will be my 4th production with them.
Hey! Yay!
Yeah,
Nice, nice.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because when I think of a repertory company, I mean, it's been a while since I've been involved. I was involved in EastEnders, and I could never think of joining 2 companies at the same time because I would think I'd have to dedicate my time with one company. But I suppose you could do it if people
Yeah.
aren't doing 2 things at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if they're doing like with Mime Troupe, it's all going to be days, weekends.
Hmm.
So you could conceivably do an evening show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd be running, but damn.
Right. And with Camposanto, yeah, we mainly habitually we do like night rehearsals.
Right.
Works out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you thought about equity at all, or are you comfortable with where you
I
are?
thought you are, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Are
Yeah,
you-
I'm equity, but
Oh, okay,
yeah.
cool.
yeah, I just it's worked for me thus far, but
Right.
you know,
It has its challenges. I mean, that's
sure.
especially with all this screening stuff. It's been intense,
Mm.
and the other thing that happened for me was last weekend. Was I directed a piece for Playground. Playground traditionally has a arrangement with Equity, but that kind of fell apart in the spring because things were being done on screens. So Jim Kleinman, the founder of Playground, talked to SAG, said, hey, we're doing this stuff, it's original material, and we're doing it on screens. Can we get an agreement? SAG said, sure. They gave them an agreement. And he had tried to talk to Equity, but Equity does what they always does. Every time something is weird, it's that whole analogy about if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, every problem looks like a nail. Every time you go to Equity to say, well, I'm trying to figure out how to make this work, Equity says, well, oh, cool, no problem, we can do this. You got to pay this much more.
No, goodness. Brian, are you
And so Playground has been paying something around the reading rate for their regular season, and then for the festival they have to pay a weekly because, for the Monday night Playground stuff, it's all script in hand. So you really can you hit an hour and a half rehearsal and then bam, you're done. You're up and you're running. For these, you actually do rehearse them, you get off book, and you do that, so you have to pay for it. But Equity was still just pushing them to some level that they weren't ready for. So they made a deal with SAG, and I just actually posted on Facebook. There's a closed group for Equity members, and I was like, hey, what is equity going to do about the screening thing? And their only answer is, well, the companies that we already have an arrangement with, we have some options for. I'm like, okay, what about the companies you don't have an arrangement with? You know, can we, can't we? Is there some way to work it out? And right now, they don't have an answer.
Wow. Brian, I was going to ask you, are you frustrated? I mean, there are a lot of folks who are equity in the Bay Area, and they're frustrated because they can't get they can't get the jobs that they can get elsewhere. I mean, are you comfortable, or are you, how do you feel about equity, being an equity actor here in the Bay?
Well, I mean, I'm a strong believer in unions and organizing, and I'm a proud member of equity.
Yep.
But I do feel like, you know, ever since ever since they closed our offices, or these, you know, the North Bay
Right.
offices, are we represented here?
Yeah.
You know, how much does how often does a representative from New York get over to, you know, the North Bay?
Yeah.
Not North Bay,
Agreed.
but Northern California. Sorry.
The Bay Area, period. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, but I wonder in your position if you know, how quick or how likely are you to jump on a plane and go, you know, audition in Chicago or Dallas, New York?
I wish if they were if the emails were coming or calls were, you know,
Right.
being made, I would consider that. But yeah, I'm not doing that a lot. I wish. I was kind of getting, I guess, to a level of being bi-coastal, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think of you that way, but you know, you have to. It's always a juggling act.
Yeah.
for sure.
And I'm sure, you know, a lot, you know, especially with Zoom, I'm sure video auditions are things that actors are doing now more than
Oh
ever.
gosh,
Like,
yes.
I'm thinking about these Zoom things that we're doing, like these readings, and I think, wow, if this is recorded and I give a good enough performance, even though I'm reading, maybe that can be audition material. But I think all actors are thinking about that now. Like, you know, how do I give a good audition? You know, something that Norman and I, we've been talking about through the last couple of episodes.
Mm.
You know, auditioning in front of a live person as opposed to the camera, because camera auditions or doing a monologue in front of a camera is a little different than.
It's film acting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But I mean, it's better than, I feel like it's. I'm personally more comfortable like with doing like a live video audition like on my laptop versus doing a self tape self submission,
Sure. Uh-huh.
because I feel like, okay, we you know, I and the casting director and or director have slotted this time where we're gonna be here, exist, and we're gonna focus on each other. And
Ah.
I do feel like there's some actual kind of, you know, they ask questions, they give notes, and you do it again, and you know, it feels very detached, but it
Geez,
feels like
I haven't seen
we're
that yet.
invested.
I'd
only
I'd be willing to try it.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But yeah, well, they're not. That's, oh no, surprising.
No. All I've seen is can you send us a videotape? And I'm like,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's more convenient for the casting directors, but
Yeah.
I don't feel as invested when I'm ashamed to admit, if I do a self tape.
well, it's funny. I find I work hard to do it. So and therefore I do as many takes as I feel like I need to do. So I end up with something where I'm like, damn, I like that, but I don't think it's representative. I agree with what you said. If it's live and somebody gives you an adjustment, then I can see what you as an actor do. If you did 20 takes of it till you finally got lucky and got something that accidentally ended up looking really good, that's not really representative. It's, you know, I've known in real life too many actors who got coached to the nth degree on a monologue, came in and were fantastic on that monologue. You try to give them adjustment or you give them a side to read, and their quality just drops, and you're like, okay, now you spent a lot of money making that monologue look good, and that's all you got.
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the time they're cast, it's too late for the directors. Like, oh my God, this person is horrible. You know, I can't, he or she won't take any directions, but you've casted. And so, you know, you may have let somebody. So it's tough, because obviously if you tape it, you could tape it over and over and over again and get the very best. But it's nothing, it's different from doing it live, one-on-one.
It's a different animal. I don't mean to sound bad about film acting, but the playground we just did, one of the things we were specifically told was, how can we keep this theatrical? And so there are solutions that I know are available in film work. Can I find some way that's actually more applicable to stage work and just record that? And it wasn't it was live. It was live performance, broadcast. But we wanted to make sure we stayed in that zone. And I was way more comfortable with that because now I'm using the skills and tools that I've developed in theater instead of trying to learn that whole other medium. I love film work. It's fun, but I really feel like I'm just goofing. It's sort of like if you're playing basketball, you're just like, I'm going to go for this three-pointer. What the fuck?
Right,
You
right,
know, because
exactly.
I'll just keep doing it until I hit. Who
Yeah.
cares?
By the way, Brian, here's a question for you. Have you directed before, or it's just been strictly acting for you?
I assistant directed a production of Angels in America at SF State,
Oh,
and then
wow.
I went on to direct another production of it, part one, for an LGBTQ theater here in Sacramento years
Nice.
ago. Yeah, it
Nice.
was
Because I was,
cool. It was draining, stressful, but the key thing was, like, as they say, like, casting's what 90% of the problem, and
Yeah,
I had an awesome cast, so they carried it through to the end.
that's great.
nice.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I had asked because there are a lot of actors who they may want to transition to doing other things like writing or other productions or things like that. Do you see yourself doing that, or are you comfortable with just acting?
No, no, no. I wish. Well, I mean, when I went to state, I mean, okay, before I was an actor, I was like a visual artist. So I tried my hand at pretty much every aspect of, or technical aspect of theater while I was at SF State and past that. But but yeah, I've always, like, I guess, regretted that I didn't focus more on like writing, because especially now I feel it's like with nothing to actually do, like I wish I could pour that creativity into something, and not only make something, but also, I don't know, ideally in this world, when we do have an industry again, that I'm able to, create my own work. So
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah, it's
slowly
not too
working.
late. It's not
No,
too
no,
late.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I got this copy of Story and Save the Cat that have been sitting there, and I'm slowly making my way through them. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Just as you were saying that, I was thinking about Stories High because Bendlestiff
mm,
Studios, and you've worked with
mm,
Bendlestiff, that's what they do. They work with budding playwrights or just individuals who have a story just to,
mm.
test their waters, sort of dip their
Yeah,
toes into it.
yeah.
And have you been involved with Stories High? I know you've been involved with Bendlestiff, but
I did, in a kind of sideways, kind of like a co-production, but in a way, but with them specifically, no, I wish, because like my whole thing was like, I I I never bothered to directly ask them, like, how do you cast? And I always kept just looking, like, in the TBA magazine, like, well, where's the casting for their next show? Not realizing years later, like, oh, you get involved in a workshop, and then that's how people know your work and stuff, and then you get cast in things. And by that time, I was equity, and I couldn't work with them. Uh, but I did an Oscar production with a TNT. It was called a Teatro ng Tanan, which is the Theater for the People, which branched off from Bindlestiff, and they did a co-production right when I moved here, with Theater of Eugen. I don't know if you're familiar with them,
oh
but it was,
yeah, Theater Eugen, yeah.
yeah, Theater. They're wonderful. And for those folks who don't know, they're one of the nation's one of a handful of the nation's only oldest, not oldest, longest running, classical Japanese theaters in the country. And so they fuse like the no tragedy style with, around this, like, kind of ghost story of this woman named Sisa, a character from this vaunted piece of Filipino literature. So that was a uh, fun production. But yeah, I want to work with them more, and I love them. I think the world of Bindlestiff. So I hope they, like all other theaters in the Bay, are thriving
Yeah,
in
yeah.
spite of the pandemic.
In spite of the pandemic, have you lost any money as a result of the pandemic? Have you lost those where you?
How much money have you lost?
Well, yeah, I mean, we were supposed to be, like, was it last week? We were supposed to have started rehearsals for a summer show for the Mime Troupe,
Hmm.
but you know, I'm very grateful that the collective has restructured the performance, and so now it's a radio play that we're
Great.
hoping we can get up July 4th.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
What's that?
oh, there you go.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. So I hope Tales of the Resistance is what it's called, and so we're trying to. We have all these like 3 or 4 different short pieces done in different genres. I don't know how much I can say, but it's very much in the style of radio plays. So
Okay.
so we have rehearsals, every few days, and we're slowly cobbling something together. Should be cool.
I'm
Nice.
sorry, I was having a little choking fit, so I jumped up. Did I hear you say something about TNT?
Oh yeah. That's the production I was involved in, like 98. I guess that was their last production before they kind of parted.
Teatro Intanang?
Yeah, Teatro ng Tanan, Theater of the People. Yeah,
Yes. Shoot,
yeah,
I remember them.
yeah. They were great. Oh,
Is that Filipino or is that Latino?
Filipino.
Filipino.
Yeah.
All right, right on.
There was a wonderful. It was the first time I'd ever seen. There's a space on Shattuck Telegraph, on Telegraph, around 43rd
Oh,
and Telegraph. There was a little community cultural center,
wow.
and that was where I first saw them. And they did some shorts there. Oh my gosh, they were beautiful pieces.
Okay, nice.
It was the first time I was introduced to the person of Jose Rizal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Rizal. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. Oh.
No, these groups come and go, and we stay. Because I've known Brian for a long time. My memory of meeting you is like through the Magic Young Playwrights program.
Mhm.
It might have been before that, but that's what I remember.
Yeah. We did a lot of like stage readings, youth theater pieces together.
Youth theater pieces. It was crazy, but
Yeah,
good
that was
fun pieces and an amazing cadre of talent.
Yeah, for sure. Like you, me, OG.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many people. Yeah.
Yeah. How often do you make it to the Bay, or do you spend most of your time in Sacramento?
That's the thing. He's been a big commuter this whole friggin' time.
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. But I think I've been very grateful that I have friends who I could stay with, or places I could sublet. That I like find at the nth hour. But I mainly subletted. Well, no, that's not true. Up until like mid 2000s, I was, I had places, but then, oh yeah, okay. When I got back here from LA around 2012, 13, I was subletting a lot. So, but when I wasn't working, I was here in Sacramento.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, I hear you. Where do you see yourself in the future, Brian? What like 5, 10 years from now?
I mean, that's hard. It's hard to look that far in the sense because
Right. How about 2 or 3 years from now?
Well, I mean, see, that's the thing. It's like I think at the end of every production, I always think like, oh shit, is this time, to move on?
Right.
And then once this pandemic happened, I'm like, okay, this is a big sign. Not not really, but like, okay, do I get that state job like all my friends got?
Right.
Settle in back in my hometown, but I like to make it back to New York. Unfinished business with that city. I wanna try to make it there without something in my pocket, or without already having a great show there. But and I also want to kind of I do want to. I've been very unfocused as far as film work goes, and I want to focus more on that. So
Oh, film. How much film have you done?
not much. Like I did my first feature back in 2017. I play a local filmmaker in the Bay, H.P. Mendoza.
Oh,
Phenomenal writer.
he's
director.
amazing.
Yeah. Oh my God. And so he was at SF State when I was at SF State, but he was best friends with one of my close friends, Christian Cagigal. And I would always see his plays or his film work. And I'm like, I want to be in his shows. And so finally one day he asked me, and so we did this dark comedy called Bitter Melon about a family reunion at Christmas time. Yeah. Yeah, so I was one of these brothers who hadn't seen each other in years, and we filmed it in like a month's time, and in the middle of the heat wave a couple of years ago. It was, which was kind of insane because we're doing like a Christmas thing, and everyone's wearing all these coats and like long sleeves and,
Doing it in summertime, funny.
oh my God, yeah. So in between takes, people were one crew member like bought a floor fan from Target and was fanning us between takes, and which was a blessing. But
where was that set?
it was set in the Mission, but we were filming in these houses in I think on Balboa Park.
But
like no air conditioning, so
right.
stuff.
No, I would love. HP is amazing. I would love
my
to work
God.
with HP.
Yeah, great guy and super talented.
Yeah, I was thinking about video because there are a lot of folks who are doing YouTube videos, and
Mm.
I didn't know if that was something that you had thought about doing, just as far as getting your name out there.
Uh,
Eh,
for
eh,
sure, for sure. Two close buddies of mine from Campo Santo, Donald Lacey and Juan Amador, phenomenal
Great.
DJ. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We I guess when I came back off of tour, I kept talking about food so much, all the food I was eating in all these places, and they was like, "You need to make a YouTube video about food." I'm like, "Well, I'm no chef, but
You are so a chef. I've seen some stuff you posted.
well, yeah. In these past few months, I've been cooking a lot more, so yeah, yeah. Me and Donald are trying to work on a little thing, see how it goes.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely post that. I want folks,
Okay.
at the end of this, people will see. We usually post your YouTube and Twitter and Snapchat information so people can follow you. I was on the
Okay.
internet. I was on the Internet Movie Database, and I was trying to look you up. There
Oh,
are a bunch of Brian M. Riveras. So
yeah. There's
Oh, really?
yeah.
sadly a bunch. Like there's a guy who made a horror movie, and so I have a writing and producing credit. I've contacted IMDb like
Yes.
a bunch of times saying this is not me, but they haven't changed it.
Yeah.
So,
I'll figure
so
the
I guess
other
I'll take
Brian
the credit.
Rivera would also be like, "Hey, wait a minute, somebody else is getting my credit," So
Right, right,
I thought you could edit that at least a little bit.
right. I thought so.
Huh? That's the
Yeah.
same. Because I know I didn't realize how much little stuff I had, so I went in and I just started posting all this stuff up, and I was like, oh, cool. I could. This is that simple. Bam, bam, bam.
Well, this is years ago I tried this, so maybe I gotta
Okay.
get back on there.
yeah,
See
yeah.
if it works.
Well, we're getting close to the hour mark.
Okay.
I don't know if there's anything else. We can get into shout outs, birthdays, and upcoming Zoom events and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, where's my list?
Well,
Birthdays. So
and I,
Wanda Sabir's birthday is today. Wanda Sabir is an African American woman who has been covering theater. I think most of the time I've been doing it in the Bay Area. So happy birthday, Wanda. And then somebody I just met, but she's been involved with theater for a long time. She is on the board. I think she's the president of the board of the CATS, Contemporary Asian American Theater Scene. I think is what it's called. It's in the South Bay. And that's one of the things I want to promote at the end. We're doing what are they calling it? A webinar talking about Asian American, African American artists collaborating.
oh, wonderful!
Anyway,
I'd
her
love to do
birthday's
that,
coming
yeah.
up. Leanne Lamb.
Hmm.
And then somebody I went to college with, Sonia Alar, this amazing actress when we were in college. And then she ended up up in Ashland and met this guy. And they got married, moved back down to L.A. And she's not from L.A., but we went to college down there. Moved back down there. She's been down there ever since, raised family, happy woman. And she still occasionally does a musical or something. She's bright, and her musical chops are amazing. So Sonia Alar. Brian Freeman, he's another Bay Area, LA guy. He's African American. He was one of the founders of Afro Promo Homos way back in the day. And just he's done a bunch of solo work. He is a very out gay man. So yay Pride Month, and happy birthday to Brian. Dan Wolf, who do you know Dan?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love
Dan
Dan.
Wolf works a lot with a bunch of little groups and specializes in spoken word and stuff. So it's funny, we both are guest artists at the School of the Arts in San Francisco. And I know he did a piece last year where the kids were not ready for it. And it was like, you think they think they know their stuff, and Dan's like, no, if I go in, I'm serious about my theater. So is Dan. So Dan Wolf's birthday is this week.
Nice.
And then a woman who I met, the only other Mara who I've ever known in my life, was suddenly my boss a few years ago at the East Bay Center for the Performing Arts in Richmond. And then she has moved on. I'm not sure what she was doing now. When she was at Lawrence Berkeley Labs, doing an art thing. She was bringing theater into that. Mara Lacquant, yes. My brother Charles G, his birthday's coming up this week, so I got to get that shout out. And then somebody you probably know, Brian Keiko. Is it Keiko, the costumer for the mime troupe? Keiko?
Oh, Keiko. Yeah. Oh,
Keiko.
Shibasado. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
her birthday's coming up this week.
Oh, yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. And then the final one is Karen Criswell. I think she does more film work now, but she was somebody I met when I was a hungry young actor in the Bay, trying to figure out what to do. You go to all these auditions, you don't get it. What else do you do? And Karen started to put together a little group, and we just started creating stuff. It never really got to the point of performance, but for maybe a couple of years, we were coming together and just honing our chops and learning all aspects of how do you put a project together. It was very cool. So her birthday this week, I think it's Friday. Those are my birthday kids.
And I've got two. One is Eve Teak. Her birthday is today. Eve Teak is it's really a sister brother. It's one of the things that I love about doing the Yay is hearing about families that are involved in the arts and theater, because usually you hear about one person out of the family who's the artistic person. And but Eve Teak and her brother Don Teak, I met them when I did Skin of Our Teeth, which is a drama. It was done at the Douglas Morrison Theater. One of the last things that Susan Evans did before she moved to the Town Hall Theater. And Eve is not only a musician, but she's also a fantastic actress, and her birthday's today, so I wanted to give a shout out to Eve Teak.
Yay!
And also Diane Aquino Chi, who was one of the founders of Bindlestiff. She, as a matter of fact, when I first came to Bindlestiff, beautiful Philippine actress and creative, who, as a matter of fact, the very last Bindlestiff thing I did, she directed it. No, she didn't direct it. I'm sorry. She wrote it. It was called Gotta Love Them Immigrants. And, so, no, it was very, very funny. Basically, I think it was a sort of a autobiography about how she and a bunch of kids were running around in the Mission District in San Francisco and getting into all sorts of trouble. And, basically she had to learn the hard way about how to conduct yourself and that sort of stuff.
Huh.
But it was fun. I enjoyed doing it, and incredibly talented. I don't think she's doing theater anymore. She has a marijuana business that she sells cannabis.
She's doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the two that I have. You have any upcoming Zoom productions? Anything you're doing, Norman?
Shoot, after this last week, I'm ready to have a break. I'm happy for it. But I do have a thing coming up, and it's June 24th? Wait a minute. What is next Wednesday? That doesn't sound right. This is through Cats. Cats is sponsoring a... Just checking my calendar here because that seems wrong. I thought it was Wednesday. I'm sure it's Wednesday. Is Wednesday?
That sounds right. Wednesday, yeah, 24th.
Yeah, Wednesday is 24th.
Wednesday, 24th, 5:30 p.m. It's called. They're calling it Solidarity Through the Arts. It's a artist interview. They're doing a series of interviews with artists. This is a panel. Jeannie Baroga, Ron Muriera, and myself will be doing this live. Next Wednesday. Next Wednesday? Good gosh. Yes. Wow. And as we talked about it, what was cool is those communities have not always had the best relationship, the African American, Asian communities. But there are all kinds of ways where they have. I mean, clearly, if you think about Rodney King and, all of that, you can see where there's been some tension. But we got to talk about things, not just the arts, like Buffaloed or another play that Jeannie and I are working on, Mattie May, where it does very much show how these cultures are in the same position in many ways and need to share that power. But with all the discussion that's going on right now, how people get overwhelmed and they say, I don't know what to do and what is it going to matter? And it's like, oh, here we go. Here's a whole list of references we can give you. So, yeah, it should be pretty fun. Should be a pretty lively thing, and that'll be Wednesday, 5:30.
Yeah, that should be very powerful. I'd be interested in looking into that. Can people, I don't know if it's closed, or can people come in to watch?
Oh, it's, I just had the flyer up. Let's see what it says. I think you get in touch with...
I'm sorry, I put you on the spot.
That's not it.
Okay.
I have it on my phone.
Okay.
Just keep talking. Brian, do you have any shout-outs?
I wish I didn't. I can't find my birthdays list, but I just got. I know. But I got two events that are happening soon.
Please.
Yeah, tell us about it.
So okay, going ahead first. As I said, the San Francisco Mime Troupe, the nation's oldest, longest-running political musical theater in the nation. We're doing a Tales of the Resistance, a radio play on I think around July 4th. It will be up and running online, so you can go to sfmt.org to check out more info. But also Camposanto, where we've been doing this great thing where they've been showing archives of past productions,
Right.
usually on Fridays. So we're doing a virtual throwback for Casa de Spirits, which was produced a few years ago. That was written and directed by Roger Guinevere Smith. And it's an awesome production. I didn't get to see it in person, but we're having a live viewing through Eventbrite on Friday, June 26th at 7 p.m. So if you make any kind of donation before that happens, you'll get a code so you can watch it as it's happening live. And then usually there's a talk back with some of the people involved with the show right afterwards.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I've got one quick thing that so I just finished doing a Zoom reading, and I'll be doing another Zoom reading on Monday. This will be the 22nd. The Playwright Center for San Francisco, they pulled me back in. I was like, okay, that's it. I'm tapped out, but they got me back in. A budding playwright, Rod McFadden, he's written a piece called Neighborhood Watch. And I'll be acting with David Stein, Carrie Ann Roscoe, Stephen Collins, I believe that's his name, and yeah, and I'm trying to think of there's another individual. Oh, of course, Kimberly Ridgway. Kimberly Ridgway will be my wife, and it's called Neighborhood Watch. It deals with race relations. It deals with racial stereotypes and how we view each other. I mean, it reminds me so much. There's a wonderful Twilight Zone episode called Shelter, where you have these neighbors who are idyllic and they love each other. But then there's on the radio news, there's going to be a fallout. I mean, there's a impending warning that's happening, and so the neighbors try to clamor into this one guy's shelter, but he's like, "No, I can't put you in the shelter." And the neighbors start tearing each other apart. And it's like, wow, these are who my neighbors are. So it's about reality. It's about.
Is this Twilight Zone?
No, it's not Twilight Zone. It just reminds me of it. But Neighborhood Watch, it dives into just what are the real relationships are between neighbors. And it gets into race relations, and it gets into stereotypes. And I think it'll be nice. This will be on Monday, the 22nd, the Playwright Center for San Francisco. I'll put up a little post on it, and that'll be at 7 o'clock.
Okay. Nice.
Yep.
Cool.
Norman, did you have your thing?
I'm going to put it in comments.
Okay, cool. No problem.
I'm typing it in as we speak. Keep going.
Cool. Brian, did you have a good time?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And anyone who wants to check out, what you'll be doing next year with the San Francisco Mime Troupe, and you're also with, oh shucks, I forgot the theater.
Oh yeah, Camposanto.
Camposanto.
Yeah.
Yeah. The intersection, right?
Yeah, Intersection for the Arts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. So we want to thank everyone for checking out the Yay, and this video will be posted on YouTube, so you can watch that. Of course, I'll be posting on Facebook, and a lot of you have just clicked on the Facebook feed, and that's how you're watching it now. The audio version of this will be on the Apple Podcast app, really any app that you listen to your podcasts. If you're a Android user, you can use the SoundCloud app, or just go on soundcloud.com. The Yay was created by theater people for theater people. If you have a show you want to advertise, or a Zoom recording that you want to advertise, or if you just want to advertise yourself, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram. You can find me at Reg_Clay.
And I'm at Who's Your Hoosier.
Brian, do you have a Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram thing?
I mean, I'm mainly on Instagram, I guess. Brian. Let's see, what's my name?
Is it Brian Rivera or Brian M. Rivera?
Brian M. Rivera on Instagram.
Right on.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for an actor, an equity actor, you got to pay him. Check out Brian Rivera. Exactly. And with that, we are going to be out of here. So, Norman, as you and I always say,
we gotta find a better sign off.
Yeah, I know it's tough doing it on the thing. And we are out.
Yay!
Have a good weekend.
You too.
Woo.